In this video, we're talking all about how to get cinematic shots with your gimbal and the issue that I have with using gimbals to film sports. I've always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with gimbals. On the plus side, you can get some very unique shots with really cool camera movement, but on the negative side, it's kind of difficult to use gimbals sometimes, and I find that when you need them most is when they seem to not work for you. So I've always used this gimbal, the DJI Ronin S, like the original one. It's pretty old, but it gets the job done for me. It's also kind of big for what it is realistically. If I lean back a little bit, you can see just how big this thing is. It doesn't even really fit in the frame otherwise. But this is the gimbal I've been using because it works for me, and I feel like as much as you can rely on a gimbal, I can rely on this one to get me the shots when I need them. But recently, and this is probably long overdue, I've upgraded to this little guy over here that I don't need to lean back to get fully in the shot, the DJI RS3 Mini. Now, this isn't sponsored by DJI or anything. I've just found that of the gimbals that I've used, the DJI ones tend to work best, which is why I've stayed in that ecosystem. But my logic for this upgrade is to hopefully be able to film shots that are of similar or the exact same quality with a much lighter setup. Because as I travel for work more, I find myself wanting less and less to bring this gimbal along for work trips. And if I'm not going to bring it along and actually use it when I'm filming, then what's the point of even having it? But this little guy can easily fit in a carry-on bag, and I'm not really worried about it, especially if I can take this tripod off and lock everything in and just carry this compact setup with me. So we're gonna take this gimbal into the field. I'm gonna use it at a football game in Winnipeg. We're gonna film some pre-game stuff and team entrances and maybe some stuff during the game. And we're gonna figure out if this little gimbal is actually comparable to a much bigger one, and if it's even worth bringing a gimbal to a sports game as a solo shooter, or if you should just completely ignore that type of stuff and focus on filming the game handheld or however you want to do it. So let's head out to Winnipeg for this football game, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really feel like filming a travel sequence. So we're just going to wipe my hand across the screen, and next thing you know, we'll magically be in Winnipeg. There's a bit of band practice happening right now, which I'm hoping doesn't interfere with the audio quality here, but I'm at the game about 4 hours early. But I'm here this early to shoot some scenic stuff, and I like to do a lot of the scenic stuff that I shoot with the gimbal, because I find pre-game to be one of the best opportunities to actually use the gimbal that you aren't normally able to get, because when the game's happening, you're usually in one spot, and you're panning and tilting, but you're not like running back and forth. And to get those dynamic movements going through things, like moving through a hallway or pushing out of a door, like what I'm in the 500 level to do right now as establishing a shot for the stadium, is just a way to make your video more dynamic and keep a viewer engaged through the start of your video and hook them so that they watch all the video. After I finished in the 500 level, I took the gimbal to field level to film some more wide-angle establishing shots. I put the gimbal away for team warm-ups, then grabbed it again in time to film the home team's entrances. I'm really happy with the different shots I got from the side of the tunnel, with the players running at me, and during the anthem using this setup. A wide-angle lens on a gimbal is so good for these situations because it makes the event look larger than life, and here it did a great job showing off all the pyro and theatrics at the game. Using a setup like this requires you to be quite actively involved in the filming process, and by that I mean doing a lot of running, but in my opinion, the result was well worth it, especially in this situation. This shot right here with all of the pyro going off over the Jumbotron is a personal favorite of mine from this game. I put away the gimbal during the game itself and then picked it up again post-game to get some celebration shots of the winning team. So in case it's not evident, I'm back at the hotel right now, not at the game. I unfortunately didn't get much of a chance to talk after the game kicked off yesterday because it was just so hectic, but it was a great time. And we're going to talk more about when specifically you should and shouldn't use a gimbal when you're filming sports. But one of the things that I really enjoyed is just like how fun using a gimbal is. Once you really get the hang of it and you've played with it a little bit and you kind of know what you're doing, then running around and getting these creative angles can be an absolute blast. And then obviously the con of that is if you're using a gimbal and you haven't used it much or you're not using it properly and it starts to malfunction on you, because it's happened to me and it's happened to pretty much everyone else who's used a gimbal before, where they've had a gimbal malfunction on them, not work properly, stop working, shake their camera and ruin some shots. And if you're not using a gimbal correctly, you haven't taken the time to really figure out how it works in a setting that's low stakes, like at home or on a spec shoot with some friends, then you could end up losing some really nice shots because the tool isn't working properly for you, and that's not fun. I don't think that you should be using a gimbal very much if you're filming the game itself. And this obviously goes for football, considering the size of the field and how prohibitive it would be to mount a large telephoto lens on a gimbal. It's also very hard to actually track action, especially when you're more zoomed in at a longer focal length. On a gimbal, it's much easier to do that handheld, and I think you should be doing that handheld most of the time. If you watch a lot of sports broadcasts for any of the major leagues, really, you're going to see a gimbal operator standing on the sideline waiting to run onto the field and get a reaction shot of a player after they score. And those people are there to get one specific shot. They're not trying to film the whole game on a gimbal, because there's 30 cameras on a broadcast and they're just one specialty camera. So don't see that camera and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be like that guy, I'm gonna film the whole game on a gimbal. Because he's not filming the whole game on a gimbal. Don't get me wrong, a gimbal is an important tool to have. I really like mine, but I also don't bring it to every game, and I don't use it for most of the game. It's just specialty shots here and there, and definitely not full game coverage or anything like that. I don't know if anyone's able to run up and down the sideline all game with a wide lens on a gimbal. Anyways, this is kind of my thoughts on this whole thing. It all kind of just spurred from me just upgrading my gimbal for the first time in 4 years, and here we are. But I hope this video helped you and kind of gave you some insight into how you can properly use a gimbal or any other sort of stabilizer to just give your edits a different look and get some more creative footage. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, because I post videography and video editing tips and tutorial videos similar to this one on a regular basis, and I would love to have you around for that. If you like the way this footage was colored, it's colored using my football video LUT pack, which is available on my website. And if you want to participate in some member polls, get some custom emojis you can use down in the chat, get to see some videos a day early when I'm able to post them a day early, and kind of get some more ways to contribute to this channel and shape the content that I produce for you, you can become a member of the channel for 99 cents a month, and that's going to be linked on the channel page if you go visit on your desktop. Anywho, that's going to be all for this one, so until next time, peace.